host, Michelle Graves, and welcome to today's segment of The Power of Money. It's a delight to be in your homes or wherever you're watching me today. Got a great show for those of you that are faithful viewers as we open up the brand new year with a bang. 2013 is going to be an awesome year. And I'm going to start off this year with a very special guest for all of you that are considering starting your own business. And of course, for many of you, that's a dream that you've held on to for many years. And now that you may be out of work or you may be approaching retirement, this might be a very good opportunity and time in your season to decide whether or not this is something that you can and should do. And there's a little bit more to it than just a dream. So what I brought to you today and who I have today is Adrienne Heard, who is a management consultant with an extensive background in business startups and business management consulting, including with municipalities and state governments. And she brings a tremendous insight about the challenges of going into business and some of the things that you need to think about before you make this great leap. As a business owner myself, 36 years and counting, and having owned and sold companies and now in private practice doing some things that I genuinely am passionate about, I can assure you that it's a little bit more than meets the eye. And so that's why I have her on today, because of my commitment to bringing you only the very best experts in specific fields. And she is definitely at the top of my A-list as far as expert on business. So it is with great delight that I introduce you for the next hour to Adrienne Heard. How are you?
Fine, glad to be here.
I'm delighted that you took time out to come. So where do we want to begin about this whole issue of business? I got this little attitude test for entrepreneurs that I brought today, just to tell people, to see if they're even ready to go into business. And there are a lot of attributes that people have to be in business. What would you like to say?
Well, I think the first and most important attribute that you have to have, regardless of your skill level, regardless of the money you have available to invest, regardless of your network, is you have to be willing to take a risk.
Okay.
Because the biggest difference between an entrepreneur and an employee is risk.
And what do you mean by risk?
Okay. If you're an employee and you make a mistake, you get reprimanded. You might even have your paycheck docked. If you're an entrepreneur and you make a mistake, you might end up going out of business, and everybody who works for you is now out of business, and you've impacted yourself and your employees for the rest of their life.
That is absolutely a challenge.
If you are an employee, you get a paycheck every Friday, or the 15th and the 30th, or every 2 weeks. You get a paycheck. If you are an entrepreneur, sometimes you get a paycheck and sometimes you don't. Your employees get paid first. Your bills get paid first. And what's left is yours. Now, the nice thing about risk is sometimes it's a lot left that's yours, and sometimes it's not. When you're an employee and you put a lot of effort in, the results of your effort, the owner benefits from.
Right.
If you're an entrepreneur and you put a lot of effort in, you benefit. The nice thing about being an entrepreneur also is that you're your own boss.
Well, which can be good and bad.
Well, after your customers.
Right, okay.
The good thing about being your own boss is that you're in charge. You make the rules. In my company, my birthday is a holiday.
Ooh-wee.
The bad thing about being the entrepreneur is that I can't call in sick unless I'm really sick.
Right.
And even then, sometimes I have to come in.
Right.
So it's all about, you have to be comfortable with uncertainty. You have to know how to plan your way through uncertainty so that you survive. Cash flow is major. If in your private life, knowing that you're going to get a check every 2 weeks, you run out of money sometimes, you're not cut out to be an entrepreneur, because an entrepreneur has to plan their money for the ups and the downs so that they survive. And the larger your company, the more you have to plan for cash flow. If you start doing business with, as you grow, now when you start off, private industry and the government don't do business with newbies.
Okay, I like that term because it's the truth. They will
Right.
not do business with startups.
But
Now tell people why.
because you don't have a track record. And private industry and the government, they're in business to get something done. They don't take a chance on people who can't get it done. Now, once you've proven you can get it done, then you're liable to get a contract. But that's when you really have to be aware of cash flow, because private industry is going to take 30 or 60 days to pay you. So is most government entities.
Yeah, right.
And you have to pay your bills and your employees and everything while you're waiting to get paid. So sometimes too much business can put you out of business.
You know, it's a funny thing you bring that up, because this whole issue of risk and survival, and of course I've been self-employed for 36 years as well as you have, and I will tell you, in the early years I made a lot of mistakes. I mean, I thought I had it going on, but I found out that being in corporate, where you may be a high flyer, and being in private sector as a startup is completely different. And you better have money saved up.
Yes.
A lot to carry you through those early years. Would you say that's true today?
Oh, very true. In addition to that, sometimes people say, well, I'll just get it from the bank. The bank is not going to finance your business 100%. You have to bring money to the table, and you have to bring a financial plan to show how you're going to pay their money back, and that you're willing to take a risk, and that you have planned for the ups and downs.
Well, let's talk about the issue of the bank, because coming out of banking and finance, one of the things I share with so many people is that a bank is not willing to do risk lending. It's a bank.
Right.
It has stockholders, it has federal oversight, and they can't do that.
Banks exist to make money.
Exactly.
They can't make money on risky loans. Most startups will have to be self-financed, or, well, we call it the 3 F's.
Okay.
If you're a startup, you get your money from friends, you get your money from family, and you get your money from fools.
Ah.
Because those are the only people who will give you money. You have to have your own money. We always hear the stories of people who have started out by maxing out their credit cards. In my own case, I was a little creative. I had reserves, but I also had a car that was fully paid for, that was in my husband's name, that I got a car loan to buy his car from him. That was at my banker's suggestion, rather than get a signature loan, which had a higher percentage rate. My equipment, I dealt with local companies, and we did so many days, same as cash, 6 months, whatever, same as cash. That was creative. And then by the time I was established to where I could go to the bank for a loan, I didn't need a loan, because I had managed my startup funds. I grew slowly within my means. I had a plan. I knew all of the equipment that I needed. I knew everything. I had planned and knew what I needed, and knew how long I could go before I bought it. So the money that I got in, I just didn't spend it. I had it allocated for, this is what I need long term, and that's where my financial plan came in. I had a business plan, and this is the business plan, and then the marketing plan within it, and then the financial plan, because I knew that it was going to take me a while to get started. My business had to support my business, and it had to pay my portion of the household bills. So sometimes when people put their business plan together, they're only interested in how much money the business can generate for itself, they forget that they have to be a paid employee of their business.
Right.
To keep their business account separate from their personal account, and not to make their business profitable by giving it free time.
And you said that's very powerful about free time, about giving your business free time. And how would you speak on that?
When you put your budget together, put a payroll in there for yourself. Know that you have to have money to live on. You may not get it,
right?
But if you don't plan for it, I have worked with small business owners that only if they were working for private industry, that position should be getting $70,000. They started their own business in order to keep their prices low and be competitive. They only paid themselves a salary of $20,000,
which is
and then they gave themselves an additional $5,000 a month as a loan from the business. And I says, well, you're actually doing your business a disservice because you should be charging what it actually costs to make that product.
Right.
Well, then I'd be charging too much. I says, well, then you need to look at your market or your product.
Right.
You cannot live off giving yourself to your business. You created it because you wanted to be in charge, and for all of the headaches and risks that you're taking, you should be reimbursed.
I think that's very powerful. I think one of the things that many business owners that I've talked to over the years are challenged is just that they've never really taken a check. They've always had the corporation or the company lend them money. And sometimes I think it's fair to say that they probably need to work for someone else and be a high flyer for somebody else rather than the agonies of owning a small business. It is a challenge.
Owning a small business is 24/7.
Yes, it is.
When you work for somebody else, you work a 40-hour week, and if you work more than 40 hours, you get paid overtime. Unless you're, management, and then you work more than that, but maybe you get a bonus. When you are self-employed, you are working 24/7. Even when you go on vacation, you take something with you because you're responsible. When you work for someone else, if you come to work and there's nothing to do, you might even go home.
Right.
When you're self-employed, you're responsible. When you're an entrepreneur, you're responsible for making sure that there's something to do, something for people to do, and you're responsible to make sure that it gets done. Now, you may not do it all yourself, but if something doesn't get done, as an entrepreneur, you're the person who gets called.
Now, let me ask you a question, because we are seeing such an upsurge in women who are making the leap into business ownership, and that's a good thing. I've been involved with women empowerment, for 30-something years, and it's been tough. I'd be the first to say that women in business, in the marketplace, it's been a journey. But now we're seeing all these young girls, young women saying, I want to do this. What do you think about that?
I love it, because that means there is no glass ceiling. We own the whole building.
Isn't that nice?
Those of us, and I'm going to say that because I'm over 30.
Okay, me too.
When we entered the business world, we were an anomaly. They didn't know what to do with women.
Yes.
When I had my first child, the company that I worked with had never had a woman in management who was either young enough to get pregnant or was married.
Okay.
And it's kind of like,
what?
So
but it's true.
I actually told them, consider it hemorrhoids, because you're off the same amount of time, and they understood that.
Okay, isn't that something?
But it's shifted now. We're familiar with women in management. Women are familiar with being in charge, and women. We've always handled the checkbook at home.
Yes, we have.
And now we've been able to transfer the skills we've had in managing a home into managing a business. It's the same thing. You can't spank your employees, but you can give them a timeout.
Yeah, you can. You can.
So the skills that we've used to be successful are transferable to the business place. And actually, when I do management courses, There was a book out in the 70s or so called The Androgynous Manager.
Yes.
And it talked about how the best managers had traits from both. You know, they say, well, men operate this way and women operate this way. Well, the best managers understand the way that women negotiate for win-win situations. And that's now become the way that companies are told to negotiate. When you're working with your unions, win-win situations. That came from women, because that's the way we negotiate.
But you know what? Children make you learn how to win-win negotiate. Because what are you going to do with a child that's acting out?
Or when you have 4 children and they all want the same thing or they all want something different.
Right.
The skills that we bring, women look at things differently. Women don't look at hierarchies. Women are great at networking and a web. And in today's world, things happen too quickly for a hierarchy. Information, it's called the web. Women are familiar with that. We're comfortable with that. We've done that all our lives. And the smart men have learned how to do it too.
Well, that is a positive, because certainly coming out of the hierarchy and the rigidity of corporate in the day where you couldn't make a decision without someone over you approving it, and he or she may not have been able to see what you saw. That rigidity is very, very negative in terms of profitability, because if you can't move quickly and you can't make decisions without going through layers and layers of people, things don't get done.
And lots of times, the ideas come from the people who are doing the work.
Absolutely.
I'm doing it every day. I can tell you what's wrong, what's right. I may not know what the general mission is of the company, and that's the company's fault. They should tell me what their goals are.
Right.
But I know what's going on here, and I know what we can do different. Ask me, I'll tell you. If you have that type of, if you have that atmosphere. Most folks aren't going to volunteer because they're not sure if you even care when it's in hierarchy. When it's in an open communication, ideas exchange all the time, because we know that we're here as a team and we're working as a team. We're not in a little silo, you know, just lockstep. Now, there are times when it's necessary to have that. For example, if you're going to be doing a business that is very technical, or it's dealing with medicine or something like that, you probably do need to have a little bit of that hierarchy, because you need rules and procedures to follow, basically for safety.
Primarily, I would say so.
And if it's something having to do with a lot of accounting, you're going to need those rules and procedures, because everybody looks at things a specific way. If not, we couldn't, numbers speak the same language only if they follow the same rules.
You're correct.
So
That's
some
good.
fields,
That's good. Yeah.
if you're going to be in bookkeeping, if you're going to be in accounting, if you're going to be doing a medical processing, you need to know what the rules are and follow those step-by-step guidelines.
What do you think is the #1 reason that an individual does not make it in business?
Management.
Management.
They are a really good, hard worker, but they didn't realize all the things that went around it, all of the planning, the paperwork. When they tell you to build a better mousetrap, and they'll come, marketing and promotion tells them that you got that better mousetrap.
Right.
So I know how to build that mousetrap, but I don't know how to bill for it. I don't know how much it cost, and I don't know how to tell anybody I've built it.
Right.
And the reason they fail is not because of the product, but because of the things that go around the product. That's banks won't loan to restaurants because everybody thinks they're a great cook. And there are a lot of great cooks who have started restaurants and failed because of the front of the house, or because they ordered too much inventory, or because they weren't on top of paying things, and stuff disappeared and they didn't know it because they weren't tracking
it. Right.
So that's why restaurants don't get funded. The same thing with bars. Everybody thinks I'm really good at this, but they don't know the things that go around it. When I am working with someone who's thinking about going into business, and one of the options for being an entrepreneur, I said earlier, was to do something that you already know and just do it for yourself. I tell them, tell me the difference between a plumber and a plumbing business. and they just have to think through. And if they can tell me the differences between being a plumber and having a plumbing business, their responses tell me where I need to start in my coaching.
Okay. Okay. So if a person does not understand the difference between hands-on, which would be the plumber, versus a plumbing corporation, which is literally management and managing a team, then in that situation, do you recommend that they just work for a company and get a check? Or what do you do?
I recommend that they learn. We have a Sinclair Community College that gives training in entrepreneurship. You can go online to the Small Business Administration. It's SBA.gov.
SBA.gov.
SBA.gov. And they have a wealth of online training. And you start at your level, and it explains it to you. And as you go through it, you may decide, yes, this is me, I want to go further. Or you can say, I think I'll just keep getting my paycheck, because I don't want the headaches of going out and finding the customers and dealing with the customers and keeping track of what I spend and keeping track and paying the rent. You can go out of business because you don't charge the right amount.
Right.
You forgot that you had to, that out of this money had to come rent, phone bill, supplies, or you can go out of business on cash flow because you're making good money, but you forgot that all of these bills are due on the first of the month.
Right.
And my money comes on, my money comes. So if you say, well, I'm willing to take on those headaches, and I've got enough in reserve, and I think I've got the contacts, the next chapter tells you how to use those contacts. Or if you didn't have them, there's one that tells you how to create contacts. So it's an excellent website. In addition to that, because you're a taxpayer, if the business you're starting is going to be one that's supposed to generate money to pay taxes, you can get counseling services at no expense through some Small Business Administration services. There are two. One is SCORE, which is Service Corps of Retired Executives.
Right.
And the other is Small Business Development Centers.
Okay.
And to find the one that's closest to you, again, you go to the Small Business Administration website, SBA.gov, and you can click on your state or you can put in your zip code, and they'll tell you which agencies are closest to you to get some counseling. I'm an advocate of learning from other people's mistakes because it's cheaper that way.
It's cheaper. It is.
So do research. If there's something that you're really good at and you'd like to try it out, find out if there's a certification you can get. And basically, that's a piece of paper that proves that you know what you know. For example, I have a small, I'm a certified business advisor.
Okay.
Which proves that I know what I know. And that's a lot of times, it helps. That's why attorneys, they get a license. It proves that they know what they know. Accountants, hairdressers, they get to prove that you know what you know. And then you can work for someone else or you can work for yourself.
I'm going to give you some case studies and ask your assessment of them, particularly given the environment we're in today where so many young people have tremendous creativity and hopes and dreams. Let's look at a common question I'm asked. I do hair well.
Okay.
And I'd like to start my own business. I want to go to beauty school and get licensed, and then I want to start my own business.
Great. There are two things I suggest they do. Number one, go to beauty school, and while you're there, make sure that you get in the management, because there's the basic cosmetology license, and then there's a managing cosmetology license. There are industry books. There's a book on being a cosmetologist, and there's a book on owning and managing a salon. And I think they're both done by the same people who are the experts in the industry. Read those books. Make notes in the books. Take them in. Dream about them. Think about them. When you're reading the book, put yourself in that place. Go and look and visit other businesses that are like the business you think you'd like to be. spend a little time in there and saying, do I really want to do this? Does this look like fun? Do I think I can do this? I worked with an individual that he and his wife started a laundromat.
Okay, that sounds profitable. People wash clothes.
But before they did,
okay,
she went to work in a laundromat for 6 months just to see what it was like and to observe it and figure out, yeah, we need to do that. Oh, I won't do that, just to get a feel for it. Learn from the mistakes, and so that you know that your business will be profitable and that you'll do it right.
That's an excellent assessment, particularly as it relates to her actually getting that touch-feel experience.
Get the experience, because neither one of them had ever worked in a laundromat before.
Oh, really?
But he had done his research and found, and they were waiting for the opportunity, because based on what they had, their research, that seemed to be the type of opportunity they wanted.
Okay. And is it a fair statement that based upon this pre-work that they had done, they're now running a successful laundromat?
Well, no. Now they're running 3.
Oh my goodness! So now they've expanded.
Right.
That's where your money is when you expand.
They took the money from the first one and invested in a second one and invested in a third one.
Oh goodness gracious! That's good.
And they have a process that they use. They have a procedures that they use for determining the location, you know, the market, for determining how, you know, the equipment that they're going to use, how the money's going to be handled. They have all of it, and it works. And they perfected it at 1, and now they do it at 3, and they're doing quite well.
Do they want to consider the possibility of franchising and taking that expertise and leveraging it into other cities? Have they thought about that?
They've not talked about that.
Okay. It's okay. I'm just saying that
it's okay.
With my concern when we look at businesses, and that of course, how long have they been running their laundromat now, would you say?
Oh, probably about 10 years.
About 10 years?
The first one.
Okay, and then they've expanded. The challenge I have, and I ran into a situation, and it gave me pause, real serious pause as a business owner, and that is, how do you get out of this thing? What is your exit strategy?
Well, remember I talked about planning? And
yes.
When you do your strategic plan and your business plan, you plan your exit strategy then. If my exit strategy is to sell this business, you have one way you do it. If my exit strategy is to create a business that I pass on to my children,
right.
You have another strategy, one of which makes sure that your children even want it.
Right. Right.
And if they do, that they get the training to run it successfully, that they just don't say, it's mine now.
Because what does that mean? What does that look like?
Well, excellent example of that is the one of your previous guests, Janelle Ross.
Yes.
Family business. But she went and she got the training so that she knows how to do it properly, and she's worked in the business, so when it became hers, she was the perfect person for it.
Yes. And she stepped it.
Yes, but she had all of the background. So that's an option. You can have an option, I'm going to work here till I die, in which case you don't have, you know, you don't have to make a profit. You can say, I'm going to work this business for 20 years and then retire, in which case you know that you want to have a lot of money that you've put aside.
Okay.
Am I doing this business so I'm going to sell it? Am I doing this business so I'm going to franchise it? When you start your business, know what your exit strategy is.
That's powerful. Because I had a conversation not too long ago, and I asked that individual that question. I said, this sounds very, very interesting and exciting. I said, but what is your exit strategy? And he said, exit strategy? I said, well, surely at your age you don't want to do this forever. What is your planning model where you can get out? And he was disturbed that I would suggest that you want to get out. And I said to him, many business owners can't get out. They can't sell their companies. I know businesses that have good companies that are not marketable because the economy has changed. And that's very, very troubling. I mean, they didn't go into the business expecting not to be able to get out.
Right. They're serial entrepreneurs. They like to start a business, get it running, and sell it and move on. Kind of like flipping houses.
Yes. Okay.
And the economy changed on flipping houses.
Didn't it
The
change?
economy changed for serial entrepreneurs.
So people are essentially into businesses now that they may not be able to get out of because the industry has changed.
And so that's why I always tell entrepreneurs, do something that you love. That you love it so much you do it even if you couldn't get paid for it.
Right.
Because there may be sometimes you don't do it and you want to get up in the morning saying, great, it's another day, can't wait to get to the office, the building, the factory, the plant, the road.
Right, right, right.
Because you can be miserable working for somebody else.
You can be.
Yes, so
and
don't
get,
be
and
miserable
actually
working
get,
for
right,
yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think
so if
that's
I'm working for myself, I should at least enjoy it.
And be excited about it. How do people know what industries, and you talk about leveraging the skills you already have, but there are industries that will be no more. And many people came out of industries that will be no more.
Then you have to assess your skills. For example, the one I used earlier, housewives. They have skills in budgeting. They have skills in negotiation. They have skills in scheduling. Determine the skills you have that are transferable to other industries.
Okay.
What is it that I do that I could do someplace else? No, I'm not going to be able to work the production line anymore. But what skills did I learn working the production line? What attributes? You know, I know how to show up on time. I know how to stay up for 8 hours at a stretch. I'm okay with working in a closed environment. I know how to operate a forklift. There is a growth in the service industry. In other words, doing things for other people, things they don't have time to do themselves.
Right.
Running errands, adult daycare. I couldn't do that.
I couldn't either.
But
it
there
is
are
an
people, you look at
emerging
them, and there's even something that's called I believe it's called a doula, D-O-U-L-A, and that's because people are so stretched out over the country, and you have a new baby, and you don't know what to do, and there's nobody around. You know, the family's hundreds of miles away. There's actually an industry of individuals who come in to be your mother.
Wow.
That will help you.
Yes.
Will help you through your first few months of what to do. And usually if you ask for one, the hospital will connect them with you.
Amazing.
So just think of all of these different industries.
That is absolutely
Lawn
amazing.
care
Okay.
has become a booming industry, and I love it. I've dealt with so many lawn care people who grew much faster than they wanted to grow, so they sold their company so they could start another little one, because lawn care, if you do it well and if you're reliable, who would have thought you could make money mowing lawns? That's what the little kid down the block did.
It's amazing, but the numbers say.
And the way you do a little bit better is you learn landscaping as well.
Okay.
And knowing that lawn care is just from April till October, goodness gracious, you buy a snow shovel and put it on the front of your truck. So that you plan on how I'm going to make this business make money year round.
Right.
So if you know your business has cycles, figure out what you're going to do during that cycle when it's down. Or know that when I started, June is already a really big month for me.
Okay.
And I'd make big money in June and spend it.
Okay.
And then July and August, there wasn't anything coming in.
Right.
And then September would be okay.
Right, right. But it's that feast and famine.
In tracking that, I was able to, I have contracts with the state.
Okay.
The state's budget ends June 30th. And so they make sure that whatever they're going to do, they do it by June 30th.
Okay.
And then it takes them a while to get through, you know, the new budget's approved and appropriations and all of that. And so by September, they're rolling again. So now I know that the money that comes in June, it's got to last me for 2 or 3 months. I also know not to panic.
Right.
I also know that July and August are a good time for me to do marketing because I've got downtime, and a good time for me to take vacation. Because as I said, when you're an entrepreneur, you're 24/7, 365.
Right.
you have to plan for downtime. You have to plan to take a break, because if you don't plan to take a break, you won't, and you'll burn out. It won't be fun anymore, or you'll be sick. And when you get sick, it's never a planned time. So I plan for downtime. And since July and August are my slow periods, I plan to do something during those times, either to take some courses, to meet some new clients, to work on updating my strategic plan and my business plan, because yes, your business plan is never finished. It's always in progress. And I always look to see what I learned last year, how did I do towards the goals that I set, what am I going to do different. And after 20 years, there are still things that I learned something every year.
I'm so glad to hear you say that, because it's very important in the world of business ownership to grow and to learn something that you didn't know. Every year, some good stuff. I'm learning some things right now, and that's why I'm so excited about you being on, because of the depth of experience that really makes a difference when you've been in self-employed as long as I have, and companies, and you know your failures, you know your strengths, you know those things, but it's still nice to get good information to take you back to another level of learning and growth and development. So this has been good. Let's talk about this book. I want the cameras, if you could zoom in on this book called Quick and Smart, The Entrepreneur's Handbook, and it is written by my guest, Adrienne Heard. And it's a super book, and I thank you for giving it to me. I have so enjoyed your snippets that you send from this book. Let's talk about this book while we're here today.
I talked about how I do an assessment with someone, asking them to tell me what the difference is between a plumber and a plumbing business. And those conversations ended up going into this book.
Okay.
When you're starting up, one of your biggest challenges is that you don't know what you don't know.
The gray zone.
Right.
Okay.
So I put the book together. It's got lots of comments. They're small because I realized you don't have time to read lots of words. So
that is a
they're
challenge.
Very brief.
That is, that's what I liked about this.
And it's divided into 7 challenges.
Okay.
And at each section, when you read those challenges, if you know all of these, fine, great. You get to the next set of challenges, and you read those challenges, and if some of these are new to you or you hadn't thought about, then at the end of that challenge section, it gives you resources that you can go. And this is where you can go and you can get in-depth information on this. These are books that I recommend. In almost every chapter, I'll recommend that Small Business Administration Services.
Right, exactly.
But it's geared on those conversations of these are things they need to know that they didn't know.
Okay.
But if you knew it, great.
Right.
Skip
right,
on.
Right.
One of the best comments I had from this, I had a manufacturing company that I dealt with, was generational.
Okay.
And it was now owned by 2 brothers that were either the 2nd or 3rd generation. Been in business for years, and they came up through the business. Well, when they read the book, they got back with me and they said, you know, this book didn't tell us anything we didn't already know. It just told us a lot of things we had stopped doing.
I think that's what it provoked me to do. I looked at this and I was like, ooh-wee, I've got to reinvent.
Yeah.
I've got to reinvent.
I forgot, you know, I've been so busy doing the work that I forgot.
Yes.
I forgot this.
Yes.
And so, as I said, in each challenge takes their distinct areas that you should know. And we start off with planning, or just should I be an entrepreneur? Because when I ask the difference between a plumber and a plumbing business, and they say, huh?
Yes.
Then we start at the very beginning.
Yes.
Like,
yeah.
Should you go into business?
Yes, right.
You know.
And I think, you know, this is a thing I'm always encouraging people to consider the risks, because running a business, in my opinion, is more intense than running a marriage. because at least in a marriage, you do have the opportunity to kind of coach each other through it.
Yes.
I mean, the bumps, etc. It's two of you. When you have a business, it's you.
When
in
you
so
have
many
a marriage,
cases.
there are two people doing all you can do for the marriage to succeed.
Yes.
When you have a business, it's you.
That's tough.
No, and you have to be careful because everybody may not be interested in whether you succeed or not, and some people may consider you competition. I tell people, don't share your ideas with everyone, and please don't give everybody your business plan or your operating plan. Don't give them so much information that they can take and run with your research.
Exactly. Exactly.
I want to do an adult foster care or an adult daycare center, and I found the perfect location, and it's for sale, and it's gone.
It's gone. Yeah, you bought it. Yeah.
And then they say, would you like to work for me? Because you have all of the skills.
Yes,
but
right.
I've got the place, and I've got the license.
Right.
And I've got a non-compete clause.
Yes.
So be careful. Don't give all of your dream away to somebody else.
Well, the adage, loose lips sink ships, had to have been birthed from a business owner whose loose lips sank his or her ships.
They gave away too much information.
Even casual. Even casual.
Because you never know who's interested. Now, one of my beliefs in my business that I live by is that I willingly share information, but I usually only answer questions that people ask. I don't volunteer a lot of information.
Exactly.
And if someone asks me a question that I can't figure out why they need to know, I'll say, why do you need to know?
Why do you need to know?
Right. So I'm never offended, and they're not offended if I don't answer.
Well, one of the things I learned in terms of my learning last year from a very successful woman, entrepreneur, she said, you don't need to give an explanation for why you say no. She said, people don't ask an explanation for why you say yes when they want something.
No is a complete sentence.
No is a complete sentence.
Yes.
And she said, Michelle, get used to the art of saying no. And don't go any further. Just no. And I think that's something that has proven to be very valuable because I'm getting very comfortable with just saying no.
No.
They ask, well, how did you do this or that, or can you, and you can just say no.
In the very first part of the book, when I'm dealing with the people who don't know the difference between a plumber and a plumbing business, I talk about the importance of being able to say no. If you are a person who has to be on every committee at your church, in your community, in your sorority, fraternity, this is probably not the time for you to start a business.
Right.
Because if you can't say no, you're not going to have time for your business.
That is bingo. That's major. Because I will say that unless you're in a supportive environment, the overall community does not understand that. If they see you as a resource person, very talented, very giving, which many women are.
Yes.
And then to have to pull back and to say, no. Well, why?
Because my business is taking up all of my time.
The business is taking
right now.
Right now.
So don't
you
say
leave it open-ended.
And that's what I talk about. A business has to make sense, 4 cents. And the first sense that has to make is personal sense.
Okay.
You have to have the support of your family. If your family, and that may mean husband, it may mean parents, it may mean children. If your family is not going to be supportive of you being in business, because there will be times when they don't see you. Personal sense. Do you have the support of your family? Are you healthy enough for the stress? Do you have the financial resources that can support both your business and yourself? Does it make personal sense? Will you enjoy it? The next thing is, does it make business sense? Where I said, go out and see other businesses that are doing it.
Right.
If you can't find anybody else that's doing what you do, you got this great idea, but you can't find it anywhere, unless it has to do with a new way of using technology, because technology constantly changes. Unless it has to do with a new way of doing technology, if you can't find it anywhere, that means nobody's doing it. That means either you haven't looked far enough at the competition, or they can't make any money at it, and that's where they're not doing it.
That is an insight.
So does it make business
sense? Does it make business sense?
And then does it make market sense? Are there people who will pay for this service? Are there people who will buy this from you besides your family and your church members? Does it make market sense? You found that there are other companies doing it. Is the market where you are large enough to support it? If it's not, are you willing to move to a place that is large?
Right.
They always talk about selling ice in Alaska or refrigerating. You've got an idea for a great new ice machine, but Alaska doesn't need it, but Atlanta might.
Right.
So is the market large enough? And would the market be willing to come to you? And then the final one is, does it make financial sense? You know, it's a product. You know, your family's in support of you. You know, people will buy it. But will they pay enough for you to earn what you need to earn? So does it make personal sense? Does it make business sense, market sense, and financial sense? And you have to answer all those questions before you spend your time making planning and going forward. So there are a lot of questions that you can ask yourself and do some research quickly before you get the heartache.
Right.
Or invest your life savings in something that there's no future for.
When you talk about the marketing perspective, I think that one of the challenges that faces many entrepreneurs is because they have that confidence and they have the vision, but to deal with creating a market or developing a market and a marketing plan, because stuff doesn't just happen, even on internet.
The first thing you do is describe your ideal customer. And there are two different facets. One is demographics, and that's real easy. I'm looking for people who are between the ages of 30 and 40 who use this product. They have this income, they have this background, and they live in this geographic area. That's real easy.
Yeah, okay.
But then there's also psychographics.
Talk to me.
I'm looking for people who think a certain way, who feel a certain way, who put value on certain things. My market may be a 35-year-old hoochie mama, which is not the same thing.
Right.
The hoochie mama is the psychographics.
Okay.
Because a person who, and you know, and there's a big market out there for short, tight dresses in large sizes.
Facebook is a classic example. Yeah. My goodness gracious.
Victoria's Secret's catalog.
Yes, it is.
Things that they never carry in the store. You'd be amazed at the sizes you can get in the catalog.
Right.
Psychographics and demographics. So you describe your perfect customer, and your customer may be the state or may be government. Describe what it is why they would be perfect for you. Make sure that your product is perfect for them, and then figure out how you'd find them and what you would tell them that would make them want to even pick up the phone and answer your call. We talk about a 30-second elevator speech or airplane definition.
Right.
Something that you could say from the first floor to the second floor, that if you could sit down on the airplane, you could tell the person next to you before they said, "Oh no." Enough to let them know what you do and why they should be interested.
Okay.
And you have to have it very succinct, because even if they're not interested, they may know somebody that is.
Right.
So you need to be able to tell people why they want to do business with you and buy your product.
Well, you know, you bring up such an interesting thing with regard to this the psychographic, where a person may be of a certain type of a thought, thinking, behavior, culture. And we're living in a time where there's so much flux going on, but yet the markets have seemed to stay fairly consistent, which is, I share with people, there's a Walmart and there's a Neiman. Don't be confused. Don't be confused.
And the wealthy shop at Walmart and the poor shop at Neiman's.
That's amazing.
Yes.
That is amazing.
That's the psychographics.
Right. That is amazing. I was attending a planning session for a large event a year from now, and that's what the debate was really about, which is how are you going to attract corporate dollars to support this event, and then you want to offer opportunities to vend for your smaller mom and pop, less attractive looking businesses. And my concern was, and I shared with them, I said, well, please understand, and I learned this living in China, that a poor woman would love to have a Louis Vuitton, but $4,000 is prohibitive. But what the Chinese do is they say, well, then I'm going to make her a $100 Louis Vuitton, sorta, so that at least she can buy it and we'll make money from her buying it. They don't dangle the $4,000 purse in front of her and say, you can't have it. They simply make it available for her. Are there any things that can be learned for business owners in America as we look at this cultural issue that is taking place? Because the Chinese are here and they have killed market. They have done what they've done well.
Define your market, figure out what they want, and for a small business, survival is not based on price, because you can't compete on price.
You
For a
surely
small
can't.
business, survival is based on quality of the product and quality of the service. You cannot compete on price.
Powerful. Really, really powerful. Can't compete on price, so you have to build your business around quality, delivery systems, service, personal touch.
Yes.
And there is value in the marketplace today.
Yes.
There's
Yes.
tremendous value for that, for having that personal touch. But the challenge again is if you don't have the resources to push the quality, because the only way a person knows you are a quality individual is they have to take the risk of altering their buy decisions to now do business with you.
And that's why you start small and develop a reputation.
That can take years. It can. It took you how many years?
Well, I cheated because I had a reputation when I went out on my own.
Okay, all right. Well, then you carried that with you, that goodwill.
And because what I did when I went out on my own, I took something that I was already known to do well.
Okay.
And so I built on something I was already doing.
Okay, so that helped you. But you still push the quality. You still push the service.
The quality, I have the service, I have the one-on-one. Everything I do is kind of customized. Even when I do a business plan, I have certain questions that I ask that I go through, but it's not a fill in the blank.
Good.
And when banks see a business plan that they know I assist in developing, they're very comfortable with it because they know that the person is the one, it's all their thoughts.
Right.
It's not a package where ABC,
Oh yeah,
ABC,
your internet brand
ABC.
Template.
Right.
Push a button and here we are.
It takes longer, costs more,
Yep.
but you end up with a quality product that's yours, that you understand, and that it's personalized.
That's powerful. Let's talk in the remaining minutes that we have. How much do you charge? Is it based upon a complete turnkey package, or is it individualized on an hourly basis? How do you bill?
There are various ways. I bill by individual hours,
Okay.
or you can buy a block of hours at a significant price, or I can bill by a project.
Okay.
So everything is flexible.
Okay.
With Some, it's a combination of the above.
Okay.
But because I do training as well,
Okay.
workshops, and my workshops are usually developed specifically for your needs for your staff. But so it can be hourly, it can be a block of hours, because we think this is going to be a large project, and so we're going to buy a block of 20 hours.
Okay.
And then the 20 hours is at a reduced rate, and then we just pay the full rate for anything over 20.
Okay.
But if you use less than 20, I get to keep it all.
This has been a fascinating time. Give me your telephone number for individuals who are interested in getting this book, Quick and Smart Entrepreneur's Handbook by Adrienne Heard, again. And I'd be delighted to go further with you, and we'll have to have you back on. So give us your phone number.
Area code 937 837 5273.
Say it again.
937 837 5273.
Great. And I definitely want to talk to you again. I want to have you back on to talk about companies that are in midlife crisis. We did startups today and people that want to think about going into business, but let's talk about the next time about midlife crisis.
Okay.
Because they have interesting cycles too.
When you've been in business 5 years, you're either going to go up or down.
Isn't that something?
And
it is true. It just happens like that.
You either go up or you're down. If you don't do anything any different than you've done the first 5 years, you're going to go down. And that's
amazing.
I do something that's called a growth audit.
Okay.
And I come in and look at you at 5 years. Nowadays, with some companies, it's 3 years.
Okay.
And we go through these things to see if you have everything in place to continue up. Because if I do a growth audit and I see something that's missing, that tells me you're going to go down.
Wow. And viewers, on that point today, I hope you've enjoyed this amazing dialogue that I've had with Adrienne Heard. I do encourage you to contact her. She's a very approachable and very nice woman. And get this book, because this is a great, great book for those of you that would like to consider going into the world of business. It's the only world I've known for many, many years, and so I have obviously some level of prejudice for business ownership, but I will tell all of you that it is the greatest challenge, yet the greatest pleasure that you will ever experience in your life. So I sign off today as Michelle Graves, affectionately known as the Money Lady, wishing you a great day, and may God bless you richly. Take care.